93, 93, 93. Alright, let's remix this. Yep. 93, 93, 93. Alright, we back in here. No, this is a little bit too slow. Speed it up a bit. Yeah, alright. Alright, we back in here. This is where the Philosopher's Stone gets created. Absolutely. See, that's why I'm not even titling my videos anymore. You just gotta be in tune at this point. You just gotta already know what's up. I'm about to put no catchy nothing in the title, nothing to bring no stupidness over here. Everything is, if you don't know, you don't know. And that's just how it's gonna be. To keep it sacred. Yeah, I'd just rather create a sacred space. So once again, what's up? Back from hiatus. What's up, Mary? What's up, your mom? What's up, Cuaba? What's up, IWEX? Good morning. Good afternoon to the East Coast. It's about 12 p.m. now in the East Coast, so good afternoon to the East. Good night to those who are overseas. But anyway, we're gonna start off on a different angle here. And we kind of got off to a crazy start there. That was completely unexpected, but we're in here. But it gave me at least a basis on what we should be speaking on now. Which is the manifestation of the magical will, and why it is necessary to be dualistic in your understanding of magic. Because we can break magic down, and that includes decay. So if you've been following along, you already know what's up. I don't have to explain all this stuff. You already know what's going on. could you keep sharing wisdom on Eastern occultism in the New Age? Eastern occultism, let me turn this down a bit. One second. Okay. See, Eastern occultism is the most mysterious because a Western mind finds it hard to grasp. What I mean by that is, when it comes to Eastern occultism, it's not about gratifying the ego, right? It's not about manifesting this ultimate luxurious life. You know, all these things that we have been infatuated here in the West. You know, people were literally utilizing spiritual tools to do cardinal works. And this is why we have Western occultism. Western occultism is just to get you to the East. We're over here in the West, and what I mean by the West is Western-minded. We're Western-minded. Eastern occultism serves as a bridge to us in the West to truly understand the occult outside of the material or physical game. See, most people who practice magic are not practicing magic outside of material or physical gain. They're thinking about what they can gain out of conducting rituals. This comes from a Western mind because we're so infatuated with the material plane. However, in the East, we know that their lifestyles are a lot more simple. It's a lot more based in nature. It's based upon what is called the Siddhi powers. The Siddhi powers is things that we don't even hear about over here in the West. We don't even hear about it. Why? Because people are so infatuated with these machines that we're not even thinking about what we can actually do with our mind. Like we can dematerialize and rematerialize. We can become small and we can become giant. Things like this, most people have no interest in doing. So to truly understand the East, you have to go beyond the ego. And this is the whole purpose of ego death. This is the whole purpose of traveling the dark path. Dark path is just to destroy your ego so that you can actually appreciate the Eastern mysticism. The Eastern mysticism showed you how to manipulate your chi. Now we're going beyond positive thoughts. We're going beyond, these basic ideas. Now we're going into what's actually occurring, what we can actually do beyond the material. Basically, Eastern occultism is how to conduct yourself in the astral plane. Basically, Eastern occultism is how to conduct yourself in the astral plane. We understand here in the West, we are not concerned with that whatsoever. People are more concerned with the law of attraction and manifestation, materialism. People are not even concerned about astral dynamics whatsoever, at least not on the mainstream level, right? So what happens is the Western occultism, is basically the Kabbalah, astrology, numerology, all the things that we talk about here on this channel is Western occultism, which serves as a bridge to get you over to the East, to get you more Eastern minded. But in order to become Eastern minded, you have to go through Darth. You have to go through the dark. This is the purpose of practicing the dark art. Meaning you're not going to dissolve your ego with light. You will inflate your ego with light. You're not going to deflate your ego with the light. You can only deflate your ego with the dark, because the dark will contract and compress into a cube. This is the whole premise of the cube, the science of the cube, the compression into the cube. But if we are talking about the light, it's only going to inflate, and that's why most people who deal in the light have inflated egos, because they feel that they're in the light. This is what the light does. So I'm not necessarily speaking on these people on a personal level. This is just a manifestation of working with the light energy. However, when you are working with the dark, you naturally become more humble. You become more silent. You become more secretive, because you really don't care about putting your magical works on display. Again, that's egotistical. You no longer are interested in what other people or what the public thinks about what you're doing in secret, in silence. So you begin to honor the silence instead of public opinion, or essentially the reactions that we're going to get from other people. Again, that's based in ego. Most people are doing things just to get reactions from others. They're not doing it to dissolve the ego so that they can become more dynamically fluent in the astral plane. You're probably not going to hear that. You can ask 100 spiritual people, what is your goal? They're probably not, okay, it's to get more advanced in the astral plane. You're probably not going to hear that. You're going to, if you do hear it, it's going to be rare. Most of the time it's going to still be based upon the material plane or the physical plane. So even when we practice spirituality, we're still doing it for material gain, which is not the purpose, because you do not need to be a spiritual being to, attract resources or to generate resources for yourself. You don't have to be spiritual at all. That's a cardinal act. And again, this is why most people are infatuated with money versus currency. Most people understand their local currency, but if you ask them about cryptocurrency, which is a universal currency, now they're not going to be so proficient in explaining how that works. See, most adults understand their local currency, but they don't understand the universal currency. Because in order to understand the universal currency, you must go beyond your local environment or your local country. You must go beyond your local economics. Most people are fully integrated with their local economics because that's how they pay their bills. That's how they get their financial gains. So they are completely infatuated with their local dynamics and their local economics. However, when you go beyond the local dynamics and the local economics, you can see the vaster picture. You can see a bigger view. You can start to view the currency of the world, why the prices fluctuate, and why the mathematics either goes up or down. In order to understand mathematics, you have to understand currency. You have to be thinking on the level of currency. You have to go beyond the local money. Again, that is the foundation, but that is not the goal. So basically, that's the same. Western occultism would be the equivalent to money. Eastern occultism would be the equivalent to currency. So yes, do you need money? Do you need material resources? Yes, and that's why we need to study Western occultism, because that's the foundation. That is the cube that you build your destiny upon, so that you access the Eastern occultism. But you must have the bridge. You must build your torch. You must have some type of anchor. You can't just go directly into Eastern occultism, because it would lose most people. If you didn't go through the bridge of the West, you would pretty much get lost in the East. You wouldn't understand why people would just want to sit around and meditate all day. See, again, a Western-minded person would not go to the East and understand why they are doing what they're doing. Just think about it. Like from somebody who's from a Western perspective or a Western civilization, they're not going to go to the East and understand what they're doing. You need a bridge. You need a medium. You need some type of, you can say, foundation. Again, I don't want to use too many fancy words here. You need foundation so that you can appreciate the East. We cannot appreciate the East without first appreciating the West, the Western occultism. And again, most of the time, Western occultism is dark. And this is what I mean by the dark side. Most of the time, Western occultism is dark. That's why we're dealing with people like Helena, not Blavatsky, that's Eastern, but Aleister Crowley. That's why the main figure in Western occultism is Aleister Crowley, and we see how most people feel about him. And this is why people feel how they feel about the occult as a whole, and all ancient sciences and civilizations as a whole. They just look at them as devil worshippers. So this is why Western occultism, once you have an understanding of dark energy and dark matter, you can then begin to conduct it in the East from your Eastern mind after you had the foundation of the West. When people go straight to the East, they often start to demonize money also, like bypassing all the material, which is unrealistic and unhelpful these days. Precisely. And this is why the Western serves as an anchor to the East, because you are exactly right. You don't want to go overly spiritual to neglect the material. But you don't want to be so materialistic that you have no insight into the spirit world. So this is why we walk the middle path. This is why we conduct the gray matter. Yoga is not to be taken lightly, absolutely. But you see, a Western mind takes yoga as a joke. They don't see the real principle and value of yoga. They're just looking at, oh, it's just exercise. They don't understand about the meridians. They don't understand about how chi flows. You're conducting yoga to alter the flow of your chi, to become more healthy, to reset any type of disease or malfunctions the body may have. So you're conducting yoga to keep your chi functioning or flowing regularly. But if you're just looking at it on the surface, it just looks like exercise. Like, okay, either I do yoga or I hit the gym. See, most people don't understand the difference between yoga and just hitting the gym and regular exercise. They don't understand about how the meridians work. They don't understand when you work with certain metals, you have different results. There's a reason why when you go into a gym, they use iron. They use steel, like the weights and all that. This is iron, this is steel. This is the energy of Mars. There's a reason why we work, they put those types of metals in front of you so you can work with those types of metals. However, when you utilize yoga, you're not utilizing iron or steel. You're not utilizing these lower metals. If anything, you're using gold or silver. To drink fluids. We ain't even got to get into all that. But again, in order to even have an appreciation for something that you can't even understand on the surface. So you're not going to look at yoga on the surface or Eastern occultism on the surface and have a full understanding of what they're actually doing and why they're doing it. Manly P. Hall dropped some real insight with his work. Absolutely. Because Manly P. Hall because he released the works, I believe, the greatest secret of all time, or something of all ages, the greatest secret of all ages, or something along those lines. So that is essentially, that work, you can say, is the apex of Western occultism, because that's going to take you into astrology, that's going to take you into masonry, that's going to take you into all of the things that we study currently. It gives you a summary of all of it. It gives you a summary of all of Western occultism, which will then prepare you for the East. Yes, secret teachings of all ages. Thank you. So yes, that is the summary of all Western occultism. But that book is like 600 pages and may even be 1,000 pages. So the average person would never read that book from start to finish. But that's essentially an example of how deep Western occultism goes. For the people who may not understand Crowley. See, Crowley is very hard to understand because his works are coded. You have to decode Crowley. You're not going to pick up the Book of the Law and completely understand what he's talking about, because you have to be versed in Western occultism. See, this is the purpose. Crowley is the apex. Once you are versed in Western occultism, then you can study Crowley. But if you are not versed in Western occultism, you're not going to understand anything Crowley is saying, because he's speaking code, Masonic code, Hermetic code. If you don't know how to crack those codes, if you're not a code breaker, which is basically studying Western occultism, it shows you how to break or crack codes. So if you're not a code breaker, you're not going to be able to decode the works of Crowley. So of course it just remains veiled in mystery. Masculine feels more Western, feminine feels more Eastern. That's exactly what it is. Western occultism solidifies you on the physical plane. essentially the serpent magic. We just call it serpent magic. The purpose of Western occultism is serpent magic. That's why I come on this screen with no goddamn shirt on. That's why, because people always ask what's with the no shirt. This is a manifestation of Western occultism. This is serpent magic. This is you conducting energy. My energy conducts differently when I don't have a shirt on versus when I do have a shirt on. The energy is completely different. This will be a completely different vibe if I had a shirt on. It's based on the color of the shirt, the imagery on the shirt, the pattern of the shirt, the material of the shirt. All these things matter. So if we're speaking about creating a sacred space, I'm not going to dilute the space with anything that is unnecessary. So if we're talking about serpent magic, yes, this is why, we embrace our sexuality, and that's why I'm always speaking about sexuality. That is the manifestation of Western occultism. Once you get your serpent magic on point, then you will be prepared to enter into the astrals so that you can start doing what we call spiritual work. Like the 7 alchemical elements, alignment with the 7 seals of the Bible, 7 chakras from the west to the east. Precisely. See, when you have an occult mind, you can see these things playing out in real time. You can already see, you've already seen it through your own studies. See, I'm not saying anything new to anybody who has already been studying, since, 2012 and beyond. So, pretty much everybody just started getting on around 2012 and beyond. So if you've been on it since 2012 on some fashion, I'm not saying you had to be super deep into it, but if you at least have been given some type of effort into spirituality since that time, where you are now is you have a foundation. Because now that we're 10 years in, now you have a foundation. So now when I speak, I don't confuse anybody. If you've been in a game, you got 10 years in the game, you got 5 years in the game. Now none of this confuses you. Now if I speak purely symbolic, it may be a little more challenging to follow along. But you can still do it because your foundation is laid. So all we're doing once again in Western occultism is laying a foundation to further explore the East when the time comes. So that's why we do astrology, that's why we do numerology, that's why we're doing Kabbalah, that's why we're doing the Hebrew, the gematria, so on and so forth. This is all to lay a foundation so that you can understand the dynamics of the astral plane and the spirit plane, so that you can understand how to unlock your archetypal self and live out your true will, or knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel. If you want to speak purely thelemically, knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel or your higher self. In order to live out your destiny, you have to have a connection or communication. That's why it's knowledge and conversation. So not only is your higher self give you knowledge, but your higher self is also communicating with you. Knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel is the purpose of conducting anything spiritual. This will be the purpose. Knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel. Once you have knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel, you can then live out your true will, because now you have your higher self helping you and guiding you along your path. It is no longer external support, it is an internal support. What about the oversoul? The oversoul essentially just represents the tree we are from. Everybody is from a certain tree, or you can basically say a certain zodiac or a certain star. So your oversoul is basically the star you come from. So anybody who is in a similar star constellation or a favorable star constellation, then you will be favorable towards this person. So this is essentially what most people don't realize. This is all astrology planned out. Whether you like a person or don't like a person is not based on them or you. It is strictly based upon star alignments. Yes, the monad. The monad is the All-Father. The All-Father represents the Trinity, the 3 in 1. So the monad is the All-Father. The All-Father is the 3 in 1, which is where the idea of the Holy Trinity comes from. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The Son is the Christ, the Father is the monad, the Christ, and the Holy Spirit is the vehicle in which they both travel through. So we are all the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. We can also say the Father, the Mother, and the child. The father, the mother, the child. You know, we can mix up those three however we want to. You can also say father, the mother, and the son, instead of saying Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Father, Mother, Son. Father, Mother, Daughter. Because the Holy Trinity, it just represents 3 in 1. So whatever the 3 dimensions is up to you. But the purpose is to combine the 3 into 1. How do you practice integrating the serpent with formless in sexuality? If I can abstain or be engaging in sexuality, but to find the middle path is very challenging for me still. It's supposed to be challenging because you're taking the harder path in life. The easy path is just going, strictly physical, going in the mainstream. So the fact that you actually want to walk in the middle path, you are taking a harder path. That means you're part dark. You're 50% dark. So you're going to have that feminine currency amongst you. So essentially, just to quickly answer your question, when we're speaking about serpent, the serpent represents the Kundalini. The Kundalini is said to be coiled at spine or wrapped around the spine 3 times. So it's wrapped around the spine 3 times. So it's like it got a grip on the spine. So essentially, just imagine a snake squeezing your arm. A snake crawled up your arm and is squeezing your arm. It has wrapped around your arm 3 times and it's just squeezing your arm. Now, of course, once your arm is being squeezed, it's going to cut off your blood flow, and you're going to slowly become, you're going to essentially begin to lose consciousness slowly, because your blood flow is now altered, which then alters your breathing, and then it will alter your consciousness. So you will slowly begin to lose consciousness, and your body is going through craziness. So there's a reason why the serpent is coiled 3 times. Again, going right back to the 3, the Holy Trinity. The 3 just stands for the Holy Trinity. So if you look at the serpent, again, the serpent is a universal symbol. We see the serpents everywhere. From the east all the way to the west, we have always exalted serpents. Not snakes, serpents. A serpent is different than a snake. And that's why most people are confused. When you call a person a snake, it's negative. But a snake is not a serpent. A serpent is a straight killer. A snake, you may find a snake somewhere in the forest. But a serpent is not even supposed to interact with humans. Serpents in ancient times guarded ancient treasures. Serpents will be around ancient temples and places that you didn't just want people roaming around. So a serpent is a straight killer. A serpent also carves the paths. So all the paths are first carved by the serpents because of how they slither on the ground. So they actually make new routes. So the route opener or the road opener is actually the serpent, because the slithering of the serpent eventually becomes the roads of that particular place. The roads start off with the slithering of a serpent. So a serpent is completely different than a snake. Again, a snake, the difference between a snake and the serpent you can say has wings. This is the purpose of a winged serpent. A winged serpent is no different than a dragon. So the same way we're saying serpent, we're saying dragon. So the same way we say Kundalini, we're really talking about a dragon force, the force of the dragon. We say Kundalini, that's just the Eastern terminology. And Kundalini just means chi, just another way of saying chi or energy. So Kundalini is the same way of saying Kundalini, Chi, Qigong or Qigong, Ra, and Voodoo. All this is talking about spiritual currency. So it's just a different way of saying the same thing, spiritual currency. So if we're talking about the serpent, we're talking about currency. We're talking about an electric currency at the base of your spine. And again, this is the mainstream. Again, you guys all know my perspective. My perspective is you start at the crown and you end at the root, but just for mainstream purposes, just so people can understand. Because if we reverse this, the serpent then comes from the cosmic planes. instead of the lower infernal planes. See, if you start at the root, you're starting in the infernal planes and you're building your way to the heavens. But that's what religion taught us. Religion taught us that we're in hell and we need to redeem ourselves because we were born sinners, and we need to, go through this process because we're wrong, and we need to, we need to correct our karma. This is a victim mentality. This is what put us in poverty, because we're thinking we're victims and we're bad, we're negative, and we need to correct ourselves. And the only way to correct ourselves, we need to go through some type of medium. So that's our root chakra serpent cord at the base, and we're locked into the inferno till we redeem ourselves, Lord of the underworld type energy. But if you start at the crown, if we're talking about the cosmic serpent, the serpent that you see on the universe card, let me actually show you guys, because I have the screen right here. If we look at the universe card, let's see. So this is the universe card for those who may not be familiar with energy. So if we look at this card, we see the Great Mother with the serpent, the cosmic serpent. So this essentially is you're starting at the crown and you're ending at the root, because this universe card is the card for Saturn in the major arcana. So sometimes it's called the universe, sometimes it's called the world, but this is symbolic for the energy of Saturn, who is the timekeeper. So when we start at the cosmos, you see, we start essentially within the yoni, or the womb of the universe. We start with the mother, and then we end at the father. The father, you can say, would be at the root. The root is father time. Father time is a code word for Saturn, the timekeeper. So if father time, or the timekeeper, is Saturn, and that is your root chakra, that is your foundation. If you start at the crown, so let me actually show you the crown, because I'm showing you Saturn, and this is what the universe is, right? So this is the energy of Saturn. So the reason why you see the woman playing with the serpent, because we're talking about the root chakra and the three coils of the serpent. Saying that word crazy. So this is essentially what the mainstream knows. This is what the mainstream goes by, the whole root chakra going to the crown. But if we start at the crown and we end here, so let me bring up the card that represents the crown, or the sun card. So let me type in the sun. So if we look at the sun card here, we see a centralized sun revolving around the 12 zodiac signs. And again, I don't want to get too close here, because it is, is too, chibram, the naked child. So I don't want to zoom in and you see private parts. So I'm not going to zoom in any closer than that. But essentially you see two children around a centralized sun, around a zodiac. And at the tip of that mountain, if you look at the green mountain or the green hill underneath that sun, it is crowned. They have put a crown on the hill. Let me just zoom in a little closer so you can see. You see the crown on the hill. So the crowned heel, go back here. All right. So the crowned heel, that is another way to symbolize a serpent. The serpent at the crown. So whenever you see a crown, they're talking about a serpent. In case people didn't know, a crown is a symbol of a serpent, and that's why I showed you guys yesterday with the Egyptian deities, the Egyptian leaders, where they always had the serpent coming out the forehead. Yes, it is symbolic of the third eye, but the serpent is also symbolic of the crown itself. So instead of the serpent being at the root chakra, this is symbolic of the serpent being at the crown serpent. And again, this is going into the energy of Medusa, with the head full of snakes. So this is, we go all into the serpent theory and the serpent magic and even the serpent seed. This is all serpent magic. So if you're starting at the crown, you see that the serpent is not coiled at the crown 3 times, it's coiled at the spine 3 times. So if you start at the crown, you can say you're dealing with the feminine currency of the Kundalini. You're more so dealing with the masculine currency at the root. So essentially, us coming from the root is basically the same way of saying, okay, you need to work hard and you need to grind, to establish some type of position in this world. Or basically what we've all heard before, you need to work hard, you gotta grind, you gotta work overtime, you gotta just, work yourself to exhaustion. This is the energy of Saturn. Saturn is all about hard labor. So if Saturn is all about hard labor, what is the energy of the sun? The sun is all about pleasure and entertainment and just cooling. Being at peace, being in leisure. The sun is the energy of leisure, and Saturn is the energy of hard labor. So if we want to put the idea that you need to work hard for everything you own, everything you have into the minds of the people, of course we're going to tell you to start at the root. We're going to tell you to start the root because that's what everybody else tells you. That's what the whole system tells you. You need to start the root and work your way up. That's the whole paradigm. That's the whole scheme, that you're at the bottom of the pyramid and you need to work your way up. Only difference, or only different thing that I'm telling you is you're already at the peak. You're already at the crown. It's for you to understand your process downward into the inferno, into the darkness. And that's why I speak about the inferno or the dark. So we're on our journey into the dark to understand the material plane and the lower earths. So you start at a pure place, you start at a cosmic place, and then you begin to understand the negative worlds, or the more masculine worlds. You start in the feminine frequency, and you begin to understand the masculine. Some people start in the masculine frequency, then understand the feminine second. So again, I'm just speaking about my preferences. Start at the feminine, start at the crown, go down. But of course, everybody has their own decision. You can start at the root and work the way up. But I'm just telling you, this is the same way we heard the same talk our whole lives about starting at the bottom and working your way up to the top. We said most people don't make it to the top because if you feel that you are at the bottom, it's almost impossible. You gotta outdo all these other people. If there's 1 million people at the bottom, that means you gotta outdo 1 million other people just to reach it to the top. You have to outdo. You have to tap into your competitive mind, and this is the ultimate scheme. They want us to tap into our competitive mind versus our creative mind. See, when we activate the occult, this is us tapping into our creative mind. This is us being creative. This is us utilizing our creative currency to make change and make things happen. Versus since school, as soon as we enter in school, we're put up against each other. We're competing against each other. We are put into a position of competition. So we always feel we got to compete. So it starts in school and it bleeds all the way out into the real world, where we're always competing against each other about who got the highest pay rate, who got the best, this, the best that. We're in this mode of competition, and that's why most people are cardinal, why most people are lost, because they're competing against each other. I guarantee every one of us knows a ignorant person, and I guarantee that ignorant person is in a energy of competition, and this is what keeps them out of the realm of creativity, because they're too focused on competition and competing. But that was put into us. So it's not about the people they did to themselves. It's not that we did it to ourselves. This is how the system works. This is the manifestation of capitalism. This is the manifestation of being in a material plane. So if we don't understand the spiritual plane, we're going to get crushed by the material plane because we have no understanding of it. The only way to understand the material plane is to start in the spirit world and to work your way down. Again, this is my perspective, at least. So this is how this is set up. It's set up like that for a reason, to keep us in the same thinking, in the same poverty consciousness, that we're at this bottom of the pyramid and we need to fight our way out. We need to fight our way out. We need to scheme our way out. We need to scam our way out. This is why all of us, we feel so comfortable doing these things, because it's like we fighting for our lives. And if you do acquire something, you worried about somebody else taking it from you. Because there's, basically, as they call it, the crabs in the bucket mentality. So this is what keeps most of our people locked out from their own creativity, so that they can access these higher worlds, because again, it's too much competition. And I guarantee it don't matter who it is. This is central amongst anybody who is not creative. You're either creative or you're competitive. There's really no in between. You're either coming from a realm of creativity or you're coming from a realm of competition. And you can easily tell who's who. Again, you may not know what a person is thinking, but you can tell by their words, ways, and their actions. You can tell by the wisdom they manifest, whether they're thinking about competition or they're thinking about creativity. How do I push myself forward creatively, or how do I outshine the next person, place, or thing? How do I make myself, or exacerbate my ego? So this is what we see. It's either you're creative or you're competitive. But this is purposeful. So that's why we don't really get upset at these people. We don't give our energy to the people. We understand the dynamics of the universe. If you understand the dynamics of the universe, you don't get mad at people, places, and things, because you understand this is a manifestation of universal forces, of planetary forces. So instead of I hate this person, or I don't like this person, or it's just at this particular time certain planets are not getting along, so this will manifest in the physical plane as you not getting along with certain people. It has nothing to do with whether they're right or whether you're wrong. It has nothing to do with any of that. Just at certain times, certain energies will not get along, and other times they actually do get along. That's why enemies can become friends and friends can become enemies. It all is based upon time and what energy is revolving at that particular time. So if you understand the energy of the time, you get out of your competitive mind. It's impossible to get out of the competitive mind without being creative. This is the purpose that the occult serves. The occult serves the purpose of getting us out of the competitive mind. Nothing else will get you out of the competitive mind other than to occupy your thoughts with creativity and the occult, to see the occult playing out in your life in real time, because these things are real. But we can veil the reality with the competition. We can be so competitive that we don't know what's going on outside of us. Just watch sports. When people are playing sports, nothing else outside of that game matters at that moment. At that moment, nothing else matters, and that's how most people operate. They're just in competition on the court and off the court. That's the only difference. The competition does not stop, or they don't leave the competition on the court. The competition goes outside the court. So when your life becomes competitive, again, this is the manifestation of the material plane. This is the manifestation of what we call Saturn. This is the force of Saturn manifesting on the material plane. So if you don't understand Saturn, you're not going to understand why people are the way they are. If you understand people, then you will understand, or if you understand Saturn, you will understand why people are the way they are. So you're going to understand capitalism, why there's bad people in the world, so on and so forth. You're going to understand all this. Why? Because What zodiac sign does what zodiac sign does Saturn rule over? Saturn rules over Capricorn and also Aquarius traditionally. Yes, exactly. If you're creative, you will win in competition. Yes, because the power of creativity is stronger than competition. So the most creative will always outpace the most competitive. You can be the most competitive person on the planet, but you cannot outdo the most creative person on the planet. They will have an advantage against you because they're at peace. If you're all about competition, you're not at peace. The advantage the person that's not competitive has over you is peace. Creativity is supposed to put you in a state of peace. That's why we manifest from a state of peace. Peace comes from creativity, you being creative and utilizing your creativity. That's how you establish peace. It's not going to be established with competition or being competitive. That's not how you establish peace. That's actually how you establish war. And that's why we're always warring with each other. We establish war via competition or being competitive. But if we are creative, we establish peace. So if you want more peace, you have to be more creative. If you want more competition, you have to be more, or if you want more war, you have to be more competitive. The more competitive you are, the more war will manifest in your life. The more creative you are, the more peace will manifest. So we find peace through our creativity. Our creativity is stimulated through the occult. Western occultism, Eastern occultism. It all starts with what we call magic. And that's why I have magic here on the screen, which breaks down to number 8, which we were just speaking about, which is the energy of Saturn. But if we go before Saturn, I always assume the opposite of competition was cooperation. Well, that's what peace is. Peace is people cooperating together. That's what creativity is. When we are all, if you got a room full of creative people, these people are working together. These people are cooperating with each other because they're creative. Everybody is able to add their creativity to the mix to make something great. So yes, when you are creative, you will automatically be cooperative because it's not about competing. It's not about outdoing the next person. You guys want to put your energy together to make something greater than what you can make on an individual level. That's what cooperation is. It is people to agree and to utilize their creativity to make something greater than they would have made alone. That's the purpose of group magic. That's the purpose of a group ritual. A group ritual is a bunch of people come together creatively, and they all are adding their creativity to a grand ritual, which requires cooperation. But if everybody is adding the creativity, nobody's trying to outdo nobody because everybody has their own lane to occupy. Everybody has a certain dimension that they give energy to. So it's no longer about, like, again, I need to compete against this person. No, it's just you. Meaning your creativity is exclusive to you, and the next person's creativity is exclusive to them. The great directors understand this, absolutely. And all great minds understand this. All great minds want to feed each other. All great minds want to elevate each other. All great minds want to make each other more creative. All great minds understand there is no need for me to be competitive with you. We can actually be more constructive being creative with each other. Yes, we can go against each other, but the world becomes a better place when we merge forces. Yes, we can be great enemies and war with each other, but we become even greater when we merge forces. That's why when countries merge together, they become greater. Versus when they go to war. So this is the purpose. And the last point I wanted to make here was we understand magic on the screen breaks down to number 8, breaks down to Saturn, breaks down to the energy of timekeeper. But we must also acknowledge the 26. If we acknowledge the 26, we understand that 26 to be a combination of Moon and Venus. So if magic is 26 and 26 represents the Moon and Venus, so essentially Moon, Venus equals Saturn. So if Moon, Venus equals Saturn, if you were on the live stream yesterday, we understand we broke down the difference between time and clock. So we understand the Moon to represent lunar waves. Venus then represents lunar particles because Venus is more physical. The Moon is a water planet, Venus is an earth planet. So the Moon, lunar waves, Venus, lunar particles. When those waves have become particles. So Moon, Venus is a combination of lunar waves and lunar particles. Because we're dealing with two feminine forces. The Moon is more spiritual, Venus is more physical. So when we combine Moon and Venus, we are combining the spirit worlds with the physical worlds, and that's why they manifest into Saturn, or the universe. The universe is a combination of spiritual and physical forces. The spiritual comes from the Moon, the physical comes from Venus. To take it a step further, we understand the Moon represents the third eye, while Venus represents your heart chakra. So now we're combining our heart intelligence with the third eye sight, or the third eye vision. So Moon, Venus is a combination of third eye vision combined, so third eye plus heart consciousness. Just gonna put it like y'all know what I'm speaking about. Heart consciousness. So if we go back to the original context here, magic. What is magic? The equation of magic is Moon, Venus equals Saturn. Lunar waves plus particle waves equals the universe. The universe is a combination of third eye sight and heart consciousness. So magic is essentially having access to your third eye lunar waves and being able to turn those lunar waves into particles. Turning lunar waves into particles. That is the definition of magic. And I guarantee you're not going to find that definition anywhere else, because we simply just utilized the math, the mathematics, and came to an original conclusion. So hopefully that gives everybody a better understanding of magic. Activate your lunar waves and transmute them into lunar particles. And this is how we build foundations of the universe, utilizing your third eye vision and your heart consciousness. And with that, I bear peace. 93, 93, 93.